On my wedding day, my sister stood in front of all the guests and said, "She has always been beneath us." My parents sided with her without hesitation. Holding back my tears, I walked away in silence. But the following week, an envelope was opened, and what was inside shattered my entire family forever. Wedding day. Those two words should have meant happiness, right? Instead, my sister stood in front of every single guest, lifted her champagne glass, smiled like she was about to give a heartfelt toast and said, "She has always been beneath us." Before I could even process what she'd said, my parents nodded as if she'd simply stated an obvious fact. The room went so quiet that I could hear the florist adjusting chairs near the back of the reception hall. It happened just minutes after my husband and I had been announced as newlyweds. I remember gripping the edge of my bouquet so tightly my fingers hurt. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to ask my own parents why. But I swallowed every word, smiled as politely as I could, and quietly walked away before anyone saw me cry. You know what's strange? Sometimes the moment that changes your life doesn't sound dramatic at all. It's just one sentence. One sentence that confirms everything you've secretly feared for years. Believe me, my sister hadn't suddenly become cruel that afternoon. She'd always been that way. Growing up, she was the daughter everyone admired. Straight A student. Cheer captain. Homecoming queen. My parents framed every certificate she earned. Mine usually ended up inside a kitchen drawer. If I got an A, she'd gotten 5. If I made the soccer team, she'd already been captain. If someone complimented me, my mother somehow found a way to mention my sister before the conversation ended. After a while, I stopped trying to compete. I focused on building my own life instead. I found comfort in little things. Saturday morning Starbucks runs before work. Monthly book club with 3 women who somehow became closer than family. Sunday brunch after church where nobody cared how much money anyone made or how perfect they looked. Those women saw me. My family only seemed to see my flaws. Then I met Ethan. He wasn't impressed by appearances. He loved that I laughed too loudly during movies and that I always bought one unnecessary thing every Target trip. Candles. Throw pillows. Seasonal mugs. Didn't matter. He used to joke, "Target should probably name an aisle after you." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. When we got engaged, I almost didn't invite my parents. Can you imagine saying that about your own family? But Ethan convinced me. "They'll come around," he said. "They're still your parents." I wanted to believe him. Looking back now, maybe I wanted the wedding to magically fix 28 years of disappointment. Instead, it exposed everything. After my sister's speech, guests awkwardly looked at their plates. My father actually raised his glass toward her. My mother smiled proudly. That hurt more than the words. Ethan followed me outside. He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't tell me to ignore it. He simply wrapped his suit jacket around my shoulders and said, "We can leave if you want." That sentence saved me. We skipped half the reception and spent our wedding night eating drive-through burgers overlooking the river instead of dancing with people pretending nothing had happened. Oddly enough, that became my favorite memory from the day. Life settled down after the wedding. Or at least I thought it had. I threw myself back into work. Returned to my gym membership because lifting weights somehow helped untangle my thoughts. My girls insisted on a girls' night that turned into 4 hours of talking and laughing until the restaurant closed. "You deserve better," my friend Melissa kept saying. I smiled but didn't answer. Because part of me still hoped my family would apologize. Isn't that ridiculous? A week later, my grandmother invited everyone to Sunday dinner. She sounded unusually serious. "Please come," she said. "I need the family together." Nobody questioned her. After dessert, she reached beside her chair and placed a large sealed envelope on the dining table. "This was delivered anonymously," she said. Everyone stared. My sister looked curious. My father looked annoyed. Grandma slowly opened it. Inside were copies of bank statements, legal documents, property records, and dozens of printed emails. At first none of it made sense. Then Grandma adjusted her glasses and quietly asked my father, "Would you like to explain why you transferred nearly $200,000 from my retirement accounts over the last 4 years?" The room froze. My father turned pale. My mother immediately interrupted. "There has to be some mistake." "There isn't," Grandma replied. She lifted another document. This power of attorney was forged. I honestly thought I'd misheard her. Forged? By my own father? Then came the real shock. The emails showed that my sister had helped prepare fake signatures. She'd even written messages discussing how Grandma would never notice. I felt sick. The envelope wasn't exposing me. It was exposing them. Guess what happened next? My father tried blaming an accountant. Then he blamed Grandma's memory. Then he blamed stress. Every excuse collapsed because every document had dates, signatures, and email timestamps. Who sent the envelope? No one knew. Not then. The silence inside that dining room felt heavier than anything I'd experienced at my wedding. My sister, the woman who'd proudly declared I was beneath her, suddenly couldn't even look anyone in the eye. Grandma quietly said, "I spent years wondering why my savings kept disappearing." Nobody answered. She looked directly at me. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I owe you an apology." I blinked. For what? For believing I raised a family that treated kindness as weakness. Tears filled my eyes. Not because of the money. Because someone had finally acknowledged what I'd lived with my entire life. Later that evening, Melissa called. Apparently word had already started spreading through the extended family. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I think so." "Good." Then she laughed softly. "I guess your sister wasn't exactly standing on higher ground after all." For the first time in days, I laughed too. A few days later, my parents asked to meet me privately. Just the three of us. I almost refused. But something inside me needed closure. We met at a quiet coffee shop. No audience. No relatives. No speeches. My father started talking first. "We made mistakes." I let him finish. Then I spoke. Calmly. No yelling. No insults. I told them how every comparison had chipped away at my confidence. How every birthday felt smaller because my sister always came first. How I'd spent years believing I simply wasn't enough. I reminded them about my wedding. About standing there while they silently agreed that I was beneath them. "I didn't need perfect parents," I said. "I just needed parents who loved both daughters equally." Neither of them could answer. My mother cried quietly. My father stared into his untouched coffee. I stood up. "I forgive you," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." Then I walked away. That was it. No dramatic exit. No revenge speech. Just the truth I'd carried for decades. A month later, investigators confirmed the documents were authentic. Grandma recovered much of what she'd lost through legal action, and the rest of the family finally understood why I'd always kept my distance. Ironically, the anonymous envelope was eventually traced back to an accountant who'd refused to stay silent after discovering the forged records. One person's conscience accomplished what years of pretending never could. Last weekend, Melissa and I wandered through Target buying absolutely nothing we actually needed. We ended up with scented candles, throw blankets, and matching coffee mugs anyway. She looked at me while we stood in the checkout line and smiled. "You did the right thing." This time I believed her. We laughed all the way to the parking lot over the ridiculous amount we'd spent on things we definitely didn't need. No. Okay. Really. Okay. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness and truth always matter, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more meaningful stories like this. Thank you so much for watching, for your time, and for being part of this wonderful community. See you in the next story.